Hello everyone, today is 8th of February, Thursday. Now it's 20 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment, and I will start with a short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. There are several main hotspots on the line of contact. And of course, major area of hostilities between the sides is Avdiivka city itself. And according to latest reports, Russian forces further improved their positions in the city from the southern side, from the southern western side, also from the northern side. And at this moment, northern grouping of Russian offensive forces are just about to cut main supply and support line for Ukrainian garrison of this city in the central and southern eastern parts, just several hundred meters, although they not necessarily need to establish right now direct control over the entire this territory. All they need is to move another 100-200 meters and they will have a fire control over this road. And in that case southern eastern group of forces of Ukrainian army will find itself in extremely difficult situation, because they would not be able to not just receive reinforcement or any supply at all through this road, but they would not be able to withdraw in more or less safe manner from the city, because only way they will have is these fields, and these fields are under full Russian artillery fire control. So as time goes by, situation for Ukrainian garrison in Avdiivka becoming more and more desperate, not just in city itself, but also in the industrial area in the north. Yesterday, several channels share videos of Ukrainian soldiers in industrial area and conditions that they are in, and you can clearly see in the statements of those Ukrainian soldiers on their faces that situation is dire for Ukrainian contingent in industrial zone also. Although at least they can still withdraw in more or less safe manner if they will receive such order, but a grouping of forces of Avdiivka garrison in the central and southern eastern part are definitely in extremely difficult situation. Yesterday, several channels began reporting that several units of Ukrainian armed forces deserted from their positions and ran away. I did not find confirmation of this information on big Russian military channels, but maybe today we will receive some additional information about this. And of course, I will report about it on my Telegram and next updates. So this is main hotspot. Avdiivka, Russian forces conducting successful local-scale offensive operations on flanks of Bakhmut. Also, Russian forces are active on the northern flank, in Bogdanovka area, in the central and southern flank. In the central part, Russian forces conducting offensive in direction of Ivanovskaya, which is Krasnaya. This settlement has two names, like Bakhmut itself. And Russian forces conducting successful offensive operations in Klishevka, Andreevka areas. At this point, from these settlements, nothing is left. It's just the dig-outs, and Russian forces are conducting operations to basically establish control over these areas, which is filled with these small dig-outs. And I did saw several videos this morning from Klishevka area. I did not even share on my Telegram because it's too graphic, but some intense fighting is going on in this area, and Russian forces advancing step by step. Seems like Ukrainian side, Kiev regime don't really has any more reserve force to send in Klishevka, Andreevka direction, and therefore I guess in upcoming days, in fairly short time, probably Russian forces will be able to push what is remained from Ukrainian grouping of forces in this area towards this channel. towards this water channel that goes through from Kurdumovka to Chesovyar, and then northwards. And according to Russian Defense Ministry's report, there was very heavy fighting in Kupiansk direction. None of us are surprised when we hear that there are heavy fighting in Krasny Liman sector of the front line, which is extremely active in last several weeks. But yesterday, Russian Defense Ministry reported that there were heavy clashes in Kupiansk sector of the front also, and as a result of clashes between the sides, Ukrainian armed forces in Kupiansk sector lost more than 250 military personnel. I don't remember any other time for the last several months when Ukrainian forces had such losses on Kupiansk sector of the front line. And main hotspots here are of course Sinkovka area of around Krakhmalna and Tabaevka. These two settlements were liberated by Russian forces relatively recently, in a few weeks ago. And of course, one of the major hotspots at this point is Terny on Zhiribets River. This settlement here, which is right next to Yampolovka, but when it comes to sectoral divide of the front line, Terny is in Kupiansk sector and Yampolovka in Krasny Liman sector. Russian forces increasing pressure all along the front line, and at any moment we may receive reports about a breakdown of Ukrainian defense lines in Zaporozhye sector, in South Donetsk sector. In South Donetsk sector, by the way, Russian forces enter Novomikhailivka and conducting quite successful offensive operations. And yesterday, several military channels reported that Russian forces conducted the first time since the 2022 offensive operation in direction of Uglidar, and some channels even reported that forward units of Russian forces entered Uglidar. I did not see video or photo confirmation of this information. Military summary channel yesterday evening did not report about it. So let's wait if we will receive some additional information about Russian offensive in Uglidar direction. Also, I was a little bit surprised to hear that news, to see that news about offensive in direction of Uglidar, but it is possible because attention now are focused, of course, on Avdiivka, on Yampolovka, Terny, on flanks of Bakhmut, and maybe Russian forces use this pause that formed relative pause that formed around Uglidar to conduct offensive operation. It is possible. We just have to wait for some additional reports about it. And when it comes to also South Donetsk sector of the front line, I would not be surprised if in upcoming days we will receive information that Russian forces establish control over the Urozhaina and Staromayorskaya. This area is under heavy bombardment from Russian Air Force recently, from Russian long-range artillery, and maybe this is a preparation for upcoming offensive. I would not be surprised at all if that will happen. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the front line. Of course, Avdiivka is a main hotspot, and well, if Russian forces manage today to successfully cut this main supply and support line that goes from industrial zone on the north towards central and southern eastern part of Avdiivka, then I guess defense lines in the city may collapse. Ukrainian defense lines in the city may collapse in very, very rapid pace. So, well, before I continue with some additional news, let me note, dear friends, that this project with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, and several programs exists solely thanks to support of members of our community, and I will be immensely grateful if you will also consider to support my work and this small media project with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see all the links in the description box or in the pinned comment. This project is fully subscriber funded, So if you think these channels should exist and these programs, please consider to become a sponsor. Let's continue with the other news now, and RIA Novosti's report here that Tucker Carlson announced when he will air his interview with Vladimir Putin, President of Russian Federation, and this interview will be published 6 p.m. this evening Eastern Time, which is 2 a.m. Moscow time. So let's see. Only several hours left before we see this interview. But at this point, I guess many people are more interested on the reaction of Western media and Western political class or elites than in interview itself. Although interview is gonna be very, very interesting, but because of this unbelievable meltdown in the Western so-called elites and the media, of course, many people now are focused on that topic. How will these people, these Russophobes and neolibs will react on this interview? Interview itself will be very interesting, I believe. Tucker Carlson will not avoid hard-hitting questions, although I was thinking about possible questions that Tucker Carlson will ask Putin, and what would Putin answer. And let's be honest, Russia is in a position, Russia on the right side of history. And what hard question you're gonna come up with that Putin may struggle with the answer? Really, is there any such a question? Really? No, I don't think there is any question that Putin will struggle to answer on it, because first of all, because Russia is on the right side of history, in my personal opinion. But let's wait and see interview itself. But well, Western ruling class, by the way, neolibs and this so-called media, they're gonna go crazy, man, absolutely crazy. They already are, man. Anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti's report that Ukrainian Rada, which is parliament, voted for this controversial mobilization draft bill in a first reading, and in fairly short time there will be second reading, and then of course Zelensky will sign that bill, and in about month and a half, 2 months time, Ukrainian citizens gonna find themselves, especially military age citizens inside the Ukraine and outside of Ukraine, gonna find themselves in extremely difficult situation, because if they will refuse to go to these military enlistment offices and register it, eventually to be mobilized and sent to the front line, according to this law, Kiev regime will receive legal means to conduct severe punishments against citizens of Ukraine, including shutting down their bank accounts, refusing in services from state institutions, and so on. It's a crazy bill. Absolutely, not surprisingly, none of their opposition MPs in Ukrainian parliament vote for this bill. I mean, party of Yulia Tymoshenko, former prime minister of Ukraine, and party of Poroshenko, former president of Ukraine. Those MPs from those parties did not vote for this bill, and not just did not vote, but heavily criticize it. Especially critical was Yulia Tymoshenko. She probably feels that Wing is doing in a different way now, and Zelensky's time is basically up. He is going down, and therefore, I guess Yulia Tymoshenko, who is a quite experienced politician, by the way, in terms of Ukraine, well, she did feel these changes, undoubtedly, and she began hammering Zelensky and his party, his regime, with very, very strong criticism. And well, let's see how things develop, but Ukrainian citizens should get ready. Ukrainian citizens should get ready for sanctions that will be imposed against them if they will refuse to go to the front line, basically, and sacrifice their lives for Kiev regime and the geopolitical agenda of Western rulers of the Kiev regime, Western masters. Let's continue. RIA Novosti's report. Well, this information is about publication in Serbian newspaper Politika. I guess you will find this information interesting, because according to author of this article in Serbian newspaper, Eastern European states, former members of Warsaw Pact, namely Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, are united once again around idea to reclaim former territories of theirs, historically speaking. And according to this article in Politika, in the Eastern Europe already maps are circulating, even in the media, maps of Eastern Europe on which there is no more Ukraine as a state. Ukraine is completely divided. So basically, this author, this Serbian author, practically said what I was saying for how many months now? I mean, not just months, but for years. Because I was saying, even before special military operation began, that if Western ruling elites will provoke full-scale military confrontation between Russia and Ukraine, then as a result of this confrontation, there will be no more Ukraine on political map. That country will be disintegrated completely, and the majority of territories will end up under Russian control, and the Western regions under control of Western neighbors of Ukraine. And dear friends, I don't have a map from media in the Eastern Europe, map that this publication in Serbian newspaper is articulating about, but I can share with you this map. And here, this is approximately how Ukraine may be divided. This is Western Ukraine, by the way, this area. And this blue color is former territories of Poland, with few major cities in the Western Ukraine, including Lvov, Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernopol, and Rovno. And most likely Poland will claim these territories. This area here is former part of Czechoslovakia, and Czechoslovakia received this territory after First World War, by the way, when Austro-Hungary was defeated. But historically speaking, this territory was past part of Hungary. Therefore, most likely Hungary will claim this territory. I don't think Slovakia will have any claims, but let's see. And this area here, this light brown color area, is used to be part of Romania before Second World War. Like this blue colored area was a part of Poland before Second World War. And most likely Romania will also claim these territories. And I remind you that Moldova itself, modern republic, Moldova, former Soviet republic, used to be part of Romania, and many people in Romania, including among politicians and elites, are quite openly stating that Moldova should be reunited with Romania, although it's not going to be that easy, because not everyone in Moldova are happy with such a perspective. But when it comes to these territories, well, most likely Romania at least will claim those territories and will establish control at least on some of them, territories that formerly now part of Ukraine. But at the same time, I have some doubts that Russia will allow Romania to establish control over this part here, right next to Black Sea, on the Black Sea coast, because now formally this is Odessa region. This is territory of Odessa region, and I think Romania would not be able to establish control over that territory. But on the western side, on the northern western side, some areas of Ukraine may become under control of Romania, undoubtedly. So, and when it comes to rest of the territory, I believe rest of the territory will be under full Russian control, not just from Kharkov to Odessa region, but most likely Kiev and surrounding regions also. Let's see how things develop. But it is interesting that in European media, in this case in Serbia, articles are published basically with almost the same understanding or reading of the big picture as of mine. Let's continue now. And TASS News Agency's report that leader of EU diplomacy, head of EU diplomacy, Josep Borrell, made a statement that before end of February, the European Parliament will most likely vote for allocation of 50 billion euros for Ukraine. And this topic will be closed after that, topic of this 50 billion. I remind you that about a week ago, leaders of all 27 members of EU already agreed to allocate this 50 billion for Kiev regime. So it's only formalization is left. Although, by the way, many media outlets are highlighting that this 50 billion will not really change much for Kiev regime. Because first of all, this 50 billion should be divided on next 4 years up to 2027, and secondly, and even more importantly, deficit in Ukraine's budget already is about 40 billion, according to International Monetary Fund, if I'm not mistaken. This year, deficit in Ukrainian budget will reach 40 billion US dollars, and that means that Brussels, Washington, London, other capitals in the collective West most likely will continue to push this narrative of additional funding for Kiev regime, because someone have to cover that huge deficit, and the Kiev regime itself unable to do so. And if you remember, just recently World Bank made a statement that without foreign funding, state institutions in Ukraine would not last more than several months, and it's true. It's true, and well, let's see how easily it will be for major Western capitals to allocate additional 30 to 40 billion just to cover this huge deficit in Ukrainians' budget. I don't think it's going to go down well in Western countries, but let's see. RT's report that ex-Russian president warns NATO of apocalypse. I did spoke about this in yesterday's second update on Patreon, and also during the live stream on my Rumble channel. Yesterday, by the way, we had a great live stream on Rumble with the Telegram reports program. It's a chat basically. These live streams, because of so many programs that I'm working on daily basis, I'm not as active as I used to be in the comment sections, although I'm trying to read as much comments as possible and react, and therefore for me personally it's a great opportunity to stay engaged with our community during the live streams. And you should see, if you have not yet, that you know what is going on during that live streams almost every evening from Monday to Thursday or Friday on Rumble. We are just having a chat in real time and exchanging opinions on many different topics, and simultaneously I'm sharing news and news that I reported about on my Telegram, and this is one of them. Medvedev made quite significant statements, and let's go through several statements of him. So, full-scale war between Russia and NATO would leave Moscow with no choice but to deploy its nuclear assets, former president of Russian Federation Dmitry Medvedev has said. He reiterated, however, that his country is not seeking a conflict with the US-led military bloc. And same time, by the way, Medvedev who is also still high-ranking official in Russia. He is deputy chairman of Russian Security Council, and in his statement, he mentioned that Western high-ranking officials scaremongering basically and trying to scare their own citizens because to manipulate with society and to justify this immense spendings of taxpayers' money without any challenges, and he is correct in this regard, absolutely. And he also mentioned during his in his article, in his publication, that well, let me read the entirely sentence. However, Medvedev warned that possible Moscow-NATO war would be drastically different to the Ukraine conflict and would not rely on the use of artillery, tanks, and drones. He noted that Alliance has combined population of nearly 1 billion people and defense spending reaching 1.5 trillion US dollars, making it far superior to Russia. Since our military capabilities are incomparable with the NATO combined assets, we will simply have no choice. The response will be asymmetrical. To protect the territorial integrity of our country, ballistic and cruise missiles with the special warheads will be used. This will be the proverbial apocalypse, the end of everything. So, and he is correct also. He is correct. He is basically warning with these statements not so much Western ruling class, but probably he is trying to reach Western audience and let them know that if this escalation continues, if Western ruling class would not stop, then at some point full-scale conflict may erupt between the sides, although Russia is not seeking confrontation with the West, and because of this immense disbalance in the forces of Russia and NATO, which is obvious, isn't it? I mean, Russia is one state, NATO is, I don't know, 30-something or 40 states. Because of this huge disbalance, Moscow will be forced to use all means necessary to protect itself, including special warheads. He means nuclear warheads, of course, and well, that will be the end of everything. Because of course NATO will retaliate, will be the same weapons, and one may say human civilization will end there. And this is warning, and unfortunately I get the feeling that not vast majority of society in the West are not really realizing how dangerous this situation is, and this constant escalation between NATO and Russia, because we are talking about potentially about extinction level event if full-scale conflict will erupt between Russia and NATO member states. And unfortunately Western politicians and sometimes even Western high-ranking military personnel seems like don't realize what game they are playing and how dangerous that is. And this is a reminder basically from Medvedev to everybody that this escalation with Russia, constant pressure on Russia, may not end well for any one side in this world. Anyway, let's continue. And well, I would just add that during the Cold War, dear friends, at least there was some understanding that there is a guaranteed mutual destruction in the place, and both sides in the Cold War understood that they should minimize possible triggers that can escalate relationships between the sides as much as a full-scale confrontation, because both sides during the Cold War understood that full-scale confrontation will be devastating for all sides, for entire world. But it seems like now this current generation of politicians in the West lost this fear of nuclear apocalypse. And it's dangerous, because if they don't understand how dangerous that is, possible conflict with Russia is, then they may continue to push further with the escalation. Anyway, let's continue. TASS news agencies report that Borrell, during his visit in Ukraine, went to some area where drones were manufactured, and he said that Ukraine don't really need drones from the West. They can produce drones themselves. Well, I don't know if he was serious about it. He may saw some 10 or 20 drones, and if he thinks that's mass production of the drones, then I mean, he may be even more inadequate than many people think. But well, whatever the case, that's what he stated, basically, that Ukraine can keep up with its demand of drones by its own. And he also stated that since the beginning of special military operation, EU allocated for Kyiv regime for aid already 88 billion euros. That's weapons, munition, and then financial aid. Combined 88 billion euros already been spent. US spent more than 100 billion, isn't it? 110, something like that. And right now, US lawmakers are discussing another 60 billion to be allocated for Kyiv regime. Although, by the way, on several channels, time to time, I hear even bigger numbers, like 200-300 billion that was already formally allocated for Kyiv regime. So I guess at this point, no one really knows how much worth of money Kyiv regime receive weapons, and how much money as a liquid in liquid form they receive. TASS news agencies informed that information that Russian armed forces conducted operations, all necessary operations, to make sure that IAEA delegation was safe and secure while they were visiting Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. This happened yesterday afternoon, and for this moment, this delegation already left ZMPP. They are in Ukraine, and several statements were made during the visit of IAEA delegation under leadership of formal head of this organization, Rafael Grossi, and they said that well, ZMPP is safe and secure, and no risks right now. It would be great if this organization, IAEA, was quite vocal at the time when Kyiv regime was conducting military operations towards Zaporozhye nuclear power plant and shelling this nuclear power plant. But at that time, not Rafael Grossi, not anybody else from IAEA said anything really to condemn actions of Kyiv regime. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti's report that according to Russian ambassador in Finland, Pavel Kuznetsov, Helsinki already provided Kyiv with military assistance worth of 1.6 billion euros. Well, unfortunately, Helsinki is continues to further escalate with Moscow and destroy everything that was built in terms of relationships between the countries since the Cold War era. And I remind you, if I may, that Moscow and Helsinki was managing to have a good working relationships even during the Cold War. But now we can clearly see what Finnish government does they are escalating with Russia by ignoring interests of Finnish society, interests of Finland. All they want, I guess, at this point, some recognition from the ruling class of the West. That's it, really. RT's report that well, Netanyahu made quite strong statements regarding military operation in Gaza Strip and hostility with local armed groups, including Hamas, and he said that there is no solution. Only solution is a total victory. What he means by victory, who knows? Maybe he means in reality exodus of local Palestinians from Gaza Strip into Egypt. Let's read several sentences. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has shut down a Hamas proposed plan to end the conflict in Gaza, telling reporters that there is no other solution besides absolute victory over the Palestinian militants. Okay, we can stop here because not theoretically, not practically, IDF not gonna eliminate Hamas entirely. It's just impossible. Even if Israeli army will establish full control over the entire Gaza Strip, Hamas gonna continue to exist. This is just objective reality. They will go underground. They will go underground and continue their assaults on Israeli forces, on Israel. Therefore, some solution have to be found. Some peaceful solution. And I understand it's extremely difficult for Israeli side to conduct negotiations with Hamas, especially after 7th October. But still some solution have to be found. And I mean, maybe Netanyahu don't understand this, but someone in Israeli government has to understand that it's practically impossible to eradicate Hamas. It's just impossible. They can defeat Hamas in the battle. And they did it in the northern Gaza Strip, but they cannot win this war because it's unwinnable. Therefore, some solution have to be found, and if they will conduct negotiations with Hamas, maybe some other ways will be found. Maybe Hamas will refuse to be political force in the Gaza Strip, and maybe they will agree to just stop any hostilities, and to let other political groups in Palestine to form government in Hamas and conduct negotiations with Israel. I don't know, man. I'm no expert in Middle East, but I do understand that a statement of Netanyahu, only solution is total victory, is pushing Israel towards nowhere, because what victory means? Extermination of all the Palestinians? It's not happening. World will not allow this to happen. And as long as Israel continues hostilities in the Gaza Strip, Hamas will receive more and more fighters. Because under the desperation, many people who lost their loved ones as a result of Israeli bombing will join Hamas, even if they were never thinking about it previously. It's, RT's report, so definitely some political solution have to be found, man. Netanyahu's government may like it or not, but they will be forced to conduct negotiations and start talking about peace. RT's report that Saudi Arabia names conditions for Israel a deal. Saudi Arabia will not establish formal ties with Israel until recognized until it recognizes independent Palestinian state and ceases its aggression against Gaza. The foreign ministry in Riyadh has stated so. Well, Saudi Arabia is one of the leading countries in the Muslim world, and position of Riyadh definitely makes impact. And well, I don't know. Let's hope some negotiations will take place. Israel will recognize independence of Palestine. Some compromises will be achieved about maybe land swap or something that will allow sides to live side by side without further claims. Let's say it's not going to be easy, but there have to be political solution, because no Palestinians, no Israelis, not going to go anywhere. They're going to still be neighbors, and they need to be, if not best friends, at least have a good working relationships for now. Anyway, let's continue. Interfax is reporting that in Azerbaijan, by the way, yesterday there was early presidential elections, and according to information that is available currently, Ilham Aliyev, current president of Azerbaijan, received 92.05% of the votes. Well, whenever I see this type of numbers like 90 and 80, I'm automatically skeptical. I mean, really, 92%. But well, one should remember that under leadership of Aliyev, Azerbaijan did manage to re-establish control over their 7 regions of Azerbaijan that was occupied by Armenian forces for many years, and also over the Nagorno-Karabakh. So Aliyev probably are seen like a national hero in this country, and that may explain why he has extremely high level of support, because I mean 92 is really, I mean really too much. But because of the military victory, well, one can at least explain this number. But I think it's still too high, man. I can understand like 60, maximum 70. 70 is already extreme level, but 90 something percent, I don't know, man. That's news agencies report that Japan continues to seek World War II peace treaty with Russia, Prime Minister said. So this is second time in the last 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, that Fumio Kishida, Prime Minister of Japan, during his public speeches mentioning peace treaty with Russia. And in one hand, it's good that, well, leadership in Tokyo at least talking about necessity that peace treaty should be reached with Russia. And I remind you, dear friends, that after Second World War, Soviet Union and Japan did not sign a peace treaty, and because Russia is just a sec. Successor, because Russia is a legal successor of Soviet Union, Russia also don't have a peace treaty with Japan. And well, it will be great, of course, if two countries will sign this peace treaty, but unfortunately Tokyo continues with its extreme policies towards Russia. Tokyo continues to have some claims on Russian islands next to Japan, and therefore until Tokyo will finally come to its senses, and until Japanese leadership will finally realize that this chapter has to be closed, and these islands, Kuril Islands, Kunashir, Shibumai, Shikotan, and one more, there's 4 islands, by the way, that Tokyo has claims on. Until Japanese leadership will realize that those islands are Russian islands forever. Forever. I don't think there will be peace treaty between Russia and Tokyo, Russia and Japan. I mean, they should really be realistic, man. They should really be realistic. Well, if you want to have good relationships with Russia, they are welcome. If they want to be hostile to Russia and enemy of Russia, okay, one more enemy. We will have one more enemy or one less enemy. I mean, at this point, we don't really care here. It's up to Japan, man, really. I mean, if you want to be in good from working relationships with Russia and have peace treaty, then make some steps towards it. And you're welcome. RTs report that EU states buying Russian energy on the sly, according to high-ranking Moscow Russian official. EU countries continue to purchase Russian oil and gas despite bold statements about abandoning supplies. The chair of the Federal Council, Valentina Matvienko, has stated, and she is absolutely correct. She is absolutely correct. Number of EU countries are buying directly from Russia, but number of countries buying through third and fourth hands Russian commodities, not just oil and gas, but many other things. And simultaneously, they are making these bold claims that they're no longer dependent on Russian commodities, oil, gas, some other stuff, whatever that is. But in reality, they are dependent. And it's normal, it's okay. It's okay, but that's how world economy should work. I mean, we have something that we want to sell you, you have something that we want to buy, and let's do business, man. That's how it's supposed to be. But, well, we all know that Western ruling class is very in love with the sanctions and sanctions wars, and they're always talking about sanctions, more sanctions against them, and with these crazy policies, they are harming not just Russia or other countries, but they are harming their own countries in the West. And maybe even more severely than they are damaging Russian economy, for example. At some point in the future, maybe things will change, and the Western world will have leaders that will be oriented on discussion, on diplomacy, on compromises and results. But for now, we all know what kind of leaders they have there. And well, this is it for now. Well, quite long update. I was hoping to make update about 30 minutes long, but hopefully you will find this video interesting and informative. And if so, please consider to click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. More likes and comments most likely will help me to reach wider audience on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble. And for very same reason, if you can, please share links to my videos or my channels with your friends on any of the platforms that you are active on. And finally, if you think this project with the several channels, several programs is interesting, useful, informative, maybe even entertaining time to time, and deserves to exist, please consider to support my work and this small media project with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You can see all the links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.